welcome in. It is the Breer Report for September the 11th. We got a mailbag edition coming for you. Real quick, obviously, this is a important date in American history, and just want to send our best to everybody who was affected in the tragedies of 24 years ago. I think it's important to mention that over and over and over again, so we all continue to go forward with the memories and the lessons from September 11th, and hopefully everybody remembers how that unified our country on such a horrible day. Do want to jump into our NFL stuff here, and we do have a print mailbag. The print mailbag is back with the season starting. You can check that out on the mmqb.com. But as always, we're going to get to three of your questions right here, right now. And the first question is from Heem Lanta. That's at Heem Lanta. Could Daniel Jones be the new Sam Darnold this year? This is a question I dove into in the print mailbag as well, so feel free to check that out for a little bit more of a detailed answer here. What I would tell you is that I'm a little bit of an evangelist for these guys, for your Geno Smiths, for your Sam Darnolds, for your Baker Mayfields, guys that, I think were victims of bad situations early in their careers, who went through coach firings, who dealt with different offensive systems, different offensive play callers. I just think that position is hard enough as it is. And I think one of the most difficult positions in all of sports, if not the most difficult position in all of sports. And when you jumble the circumstances on a player like that at that age, it becomes almost impossible. So if you look at Daniel Jones' history, and, again, this is nothing against anybody who had their hands on him over the course of the first 6 years of his career. But if we really go through it, all right, you see over his first 4 years, he had three head coaches. He had four offensive coordinators. He had four different play callers. He, at the very end of that window, 19 to 22, had a breakout year, which led to the Giants doubling down on him and paying him. And then he comes back the 23 season, has a bumpy first month, injures his neck, is out for about a month, comes back, then tears his ACL. And then last year, of course, he's coming back off the ACL. The first year coming back off the ACL can be tricky for players. So that's really his story to this point. And again, I'm not absolving him of blame for this. I'm not saying that some of it isn't on him. So a lot of it, I think you can take and say, A is on Daniel Jones, B is on Daniel Jones, C is on Daniel Jones. Part of this is there is some personal responsibility with it, of course. But I also think that giving up on a guy at that position, at that age, is premature. And, I go back to what Shane Steichen said to me over the weekend when I asked him what he saw in Daniel Jones on tape and evaluating his different options at the quarterback position, is he wanted to create competition for Anthony Richardson going into 2025. And he said he saw a player who constantly was able to find completions. And when he was at his best, he was a master at that. So that's number one. And that's something they didn't have with Anthony Richardson the last couple of years. And then number two, when he started to ask around what he saw, what he kept hearing from people over and over and over again, was this is a guy who has a tremendously high football IQ. And we already know about the physical ability, right? He's big, he's athletic, he can throw it. So, I think looking at him and looking, by the way, at Justin Fields with the Jets as well, I think he put him in this category too. I think both these guys have a shot if their situations can stabilize a little bit. And I think the ultimate example of this going back a few years is Alex Smith, in that Alex Smith had been through five coordinators his first 5 years in the league, goes into year six then with Jim Harbaugh. It was actually year seven, I think. Was that right? Year seven with Jim Harbaugh as his head coach in San Francisco. Greg Roman comes in as the offensive coordinator. And they came in and they stripped things down for Alex Smith. And they said, we're going to make this simple on you. We're going to build you back up. And I think that's the process that Shane Steichen's going through with Daniel Jones. Should at least give him a chance. And if he can be what Alex Smith was for Kansas City after Alex Smith left San Francisco, went to Kansas City, if he can be what Alex Smith was for Kansas City, we could be talking about a guy who's got a completely different reputation 3 or 4 years from now. So I wouldn't give up on Daniel Jones. Question number two, this is from L. Gordon Camps. That's at Leon Camps. He asked, how long is the leash on Caleb Williams? Gordon, I would say the leash this year is going to be relatively long, and it should be. He came out, again, like we talk about quarterback development. We talked about all the things that Daniel Jones went through. Well, here we are in year 2 with Caleb Williams. He's already been through a coach firing. He had multiple offensive coordinators, multiple offensive play callers, multiple head coaches as a rookie. About as sideways a rookie year as you possibly can have. He's coming from a relatively simple offense in college and having played for Lincoln Riley at USC. And now he's with, again, this will be his 4th play caller, his 4th offensive coordinator, and his 4th head coach in just 3 years. And so the whole idea here is to create a stable environment for him where he can grow. And he was able to do that in college because he had Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and then for 2 years at USC. I think finding a way to stabilize things for him, finding a way to simplify things for him, and finding a way to get him playing fast is going to be the key here. And that's going to be a little bit of a process. Now, I was very encouraged with what I saw when they played against the Buffalo Bills in the preseason. What we saw against the Bills in the preseason was a guy who was decisive, a guy who was playing fast. Unfortunately, we did not see that on Monday night against the Vikings. I thought he was holding the ball for too long. I thought he was looking for escape hatches too long. I thought he probably ran a little bit too much. So how do you find that happy medium of the Superman stuff and the routine stuff? And that's what Ben Johnson's got to do now. They had him drinking through a fire hose early in camp. The promise was that they were going to narrow things down on him, simplify things on him, lean into what he's good at. And now it's on Ben Johnson and his staff to do that. And it's on Caleb Williams to buy into it. I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. That wasn't a great start on Monday night, but I give him more time. I give him more than 1 week here. We saw what the offense can look like with Tyson Bagent running really efficiently at times in the preseason and even during some of those practices in the summer. You need to have Caleb Williams running the offense like Tyson Bagent was. And if you can get that, then I think the talent, the otherworldly talent starts to show a little bit more. Question number 3, this is from Neil. It's at Miller Neil 3. What do you think the New York Giants need to do to get going? Is it a coaching issue, a QB issue, or an owner issue? I think what you saw on Sunday was an offensive line issue. And the hope was that they would have Andrew Thomas back for the opener. That didn't happen. But the feeling has been all along that once Andrew Thomas comes back, then that falls into place. If that falls into place, I think eventually you wind up going to Jackson Dart at quarterback. I don't know that it'll be right away, but Russell Wilson's got to play better. And I don't put Jackson Dart in yet. I give Russell Wilson a little bit more of a chance to prove himself. And I give the offensive line a chance to coalesce. If the offensive line coalesces and Russell Wilson plays great, then awesome. If the offensive line coalesces and Russell Wilson doesn't play great, then maybe you go to Dart. I still believe in Brian Daboll as a head coach. I think ownership there is really good despite what's happened over the last 7 or 8 years. And I do think Jackson Dart is going to be a really good quarterback. There's a deep belief in Jackson Dart in that building. They haven't been that outward about it, but they really believe they've hit on this quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if they can get that offensive line right and then get Jackson Dart in there. Again, I don't think that'll happen for a little while, but I think at some point we'll see it this year. And then I think then that's when you make a determination if you're John Mara and the front office on what you're going to do with your general manager and your head coach going forward. Appreciate you guys coming out. Be sure to check out all of our content on the MMQB this week. Again, the print mailbag's up there. We're going to have another Breer Report for you on Friday. As always, keep those questions coming. We will see you tomorrow with another Breer Report.